All right, let's stay in the West and talk a little bit about Dallas. The
Mhm.
Mavericks lost in New York on Tuesday. Anthony Davis sat this one out after playing a night earlier in Brooklyn. The Mavs are now 35 and 38 on the season, a half game back of Phoenix as we record this. They're right there for that last play-in spot.
Mhm.
AD is back and says he will be back for the stretch run. I think people in Dallas probably have some mixed feelings about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
With AD, they can make a run at this play-in slot. Without him, they will almost certainly land in the mid lottery.
Yeah.
What's the move here for Dallas?
Well, look, you got a lot of factors going into this, and they faced this just 2 seasons ago, right? Remember, they got fined for tanking at the end of the season because, frankly, Mark Cuban talked about it publicly, which is a no-no. We know plenty of teams are already doing it. However, it yielded them Derek Lively, and that was a huge part of their run to the finals. So the argument to tank is, hey, that could happen to us again. And we are a team that needs all the help we can get at this point. They don't have a ton of roster flexibility. Right now, they're have so many injuries, and even going into next season, we don't expect Kyrie to start the season playing. So I think that kind of move could be good for the franchise. And there has been reporting out there, not by me, but by people like Tim McMahon, who is very plugged in, Mark Stein, who is very plugged in to the Dallas Mavericks, that, hey, there were people within the organization who weren't so excited about AD coming back, not just people and the fans who are around the team, but actually within the team, because the idea is, hey, wouldn't another Derek Lively be nice? However, in Dallas, you are dealing with a sort of extra thing that doesn't come into play in most of these situations when teams are deciding whether to tank or to, quote, go for the play-in. You are dealing with a fan base that is very angry. You are dealing with a trade that happened and the reverberations of it that is still very upsetting to a lot of people and may have permanently sort of damaged the relationship with the fans and certainly set back the franchise considerably as to what we have seen so far. Maybe having Anthony Davis play and having him look good in those games and giving the fans and sort of the people around the team and within the team hope that, hey, maybe this isn't going to be a flat out disaster. It can still have been a mistake, but maybe it isn't a flat out disaster if he is leading the charge and Kyrie eventually comes back next season. That kind of faith and sort of renewed vigor is important in a franchise that has been having as many problems off the court as it has had on. And then Anthony Davis, to his credit, wants to play. And they are forging a new relationship with a new superstar and telling him to sit down, telling him, no, sorry, you can't play, hurting his reputation because, of course, people think he's so fragile and he doesn't play basketball and sort of imposing that on him. That's not necessarily good for your relationship with your new star and the franchise. So I think they're just dealing with something more than basketball when we have the conversation about whether they should tank or not. And there are reasons kind of on both sides. I think both sides have pros and both sides have cons.
Well, grab your phone and your dancing shoes. It's time to make entries on March college basketball with Underdog. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at some college basketball and selecting Cooper Flagg for higher than 18 points and Derek Queen for higher than 10 rebounds. So download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code OPENFLOOR to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with promo code OPENFLOOR. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus credits instantly upon first deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Void where prohibited. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783. Or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. I think the pros for sitting Davis out and sinking in the standings far outweigh the cons to it, or the pros for fighting and maybe getting one of those last two play-in slots. It kind of reminds me a little bit of it's not the same situation, but like when Oklahoma City had Al Horford on the roster, when Shea Gilgeous-Alexander got hurt, the Thunder went to Horford and were like, listen, time to shut it down. Like we're done. We're done. We
Close for
saw what
business.
we need to see from you and Shea. We want to play Shea next to a shooting big. So
Yeah.
we accomplished that. Al, you take the rest of the season off. Now, it's not like
Right.
we're in January. We're
No.
in late March right now. So you're
Yeah.
really talking a few weeks' time. And I think for the benefit of the organization, you've got to wind up in that mid lottery. You got to give yourself a puncher's chance to land one of those top 3 picks. And you've got to give yourself at least the room to land in one of those mid level slots. And
And it's a
the
deep
Mavericks,
draft. So even
yeah.
if they stayed in the middle, that could be very good for them. But you're still talking about basketball. You're comparing it to a basketball situation in Oklahoma City. You have to also take into account the rest of the stuff around the franchise, the new relationship with Anthony Davis, what he wants to do. I
Well,
am
the
not
relationship
saying
with
they shouldn't
Davis,
tank. I
the
still think they
relationship
should tank. I just recognize that there's more at play here.
the relationship with Davis, I think, matters, right? Like you want to, if he wants to play, you got to let him play, right? And maybe you play out the rest of the season, kind of like you did this week, where you played him like 20 some odd minutes in the game against Brooklyn, and you sat him
Right.
out the next night. And maybe that's the way to go to get the best of both worlds. But I'm telling you, if they wind up in like the 9 spot, like where
Yeah.
the
No,
best case
there's no
scenario,
basketball reason for that.
yeah, the best case scenario is get cooked by Oklahoma City in the first round. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how that helps them. And they have been playing with fire so many times over the last few years. Like going back to when they blew the Jalen Brunson situation, then they get lucky and stumble in the draft into the lottery and get Derek Lively with that top 10 pick. They have just been. I mean, playing with fire really is the way to put it. Like they've just been in these situations where they've been on the precipice of blowing everything. And now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's any digging themselves out of this hole because Kyrie, when he just turned 34, I think
Yeah.
recently, Davis is going to be 33. Kyrie coming off the Achilles injury or the ACL injury. Like I don't know. I don't know if there's any digging out of this hole. I think, but the only way to do it or potentially do it is to add a really high level young guy to your roster to contribute over the next 2 or 3 years. And
Yeah.
if you kind of play out the stretch and win some games and, wind up beating out Phoenix, maybe even beating out Sacramento for that 9 spot, like, I don't know what good that really does you. And I get you're right. You're talking about basketball versus non-basketball reasonings there. But if you're Dallas, your best hope for basketball is to just dump these last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks.
And by the way, all the non-basketball reasons are your own creation. So you made the mess in the first place. It's just a matter of how much you want to put toward cleaning it up on the court versus off the court, all of these factors. I would land with you on, hey, tank Derek Lively, Exhibit A, but they're dealing with a lot of things.